Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another Morning Coffee Talks. So, part of my journey, man, and a part of a lot of you guys' journey is we want to be in long term, fruitful marriages, relationships, right? And we want to be happy in those relationships and marriage. But a lot of us aren't prepared and weren't prepared to see what that really means because a lot of us didn't have good examples, right? And I think that a lot of times our society promotes like different things through movies, different things that permeate through our society and our culture that gives us an image of what they're supposed to look like. But the men who have been in real marriages, real relationships that have built into marriages and things like that, they'll tell you a different story. And again, there are snapshots, there are points in a relationship where it does look like maybe a movie, right? But that's not the everyday thing. That's not what the foundation is built on. That's not what the relationship is in its entirety, right? Many of those men would tell you about being in a masculine frame, right? Many of those men would tell you what it takes to really lead a household. And from my experience and my conversations I've had with other men and through my even experience, personal experience, a man who doesn't lead himself, a man who does not lead himself has no business leading a household. And again, yet too many marriages are running off emotions with no directions. So I look at it like a car that's full of gas. Like you gassed up, you ready to go, but there's no GPS, right? And so I want to talk about why leadership, not just love, is what's keeping the marriage moving forward, right? So I talked about having a car that's filled up with gas with no GPS, right? For me, in my experience, and a lot of other guys I spoke to, love is like the engine, but leadership is the steering wheel of that car, right? Yes, emotions are powerful, but emotions are meant to fuel, not lead. And so it's like, again, love will get the relationship started, but leadership is going to determine where you end up. And as a husband, your ability to make decisions, right, create structure and cast visions is going to keep your household stable. It's going to keep your household on track to your destination on where you're guiding and leading that family, right? And so even when it comes to direction and guiding your family like that GPS, right? Women, it don't matter what age, they all want to feel secure, right? Not just emotionally, but also in that vision. This is why that conversation always comes up. What are we doing in a relationship? Where are we going? What are you doing in 5 years? That they always that question's not every day, right? Their feelings are every day, but every once in a while that pops up about where we going in this relationship. What are we in this relationship? They want to see the vision. They want to see where you going in this relationship, where y'all are going in this relationship, right? And so when it comes to leadership, that means you're saying, hey, this is where we're going. This is what I'm doing. And you have to follow it up with action. It can't just be all talk. If they see you building and you working on things, that's allowing them to track and measure where you guys are at in the relationship as far as growth and building. And that's going to keep them emotionally stable and it's going to keep them feeling secure, right? But again, I've said it even from the jump, you have to lead yourself first, right? You can't lead her if you're not leading yourself. So, I've always said these three things, right? Mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And well, actually, let me add one more. Physically, you have to lead yourself physically too. So really forward. And again, what does that look like versus just saying those four things, right? Mentally, what are you doing to decompress, to have less stress, right? On that side. Also, what are you doing to bring in things that's going to help build your mind? You reading books. Are you doing things out there for yourself to keep growing? Meaning, are you doing a new skill? Are you practicing things like jujitsu or boxing or hitting the gym? Things that's going to keep you mentally tough, right? Because you got to think about from back in the day, we used to do things to keep our body strong, which ultimately kept our mind strong. So, what are you doing to incorporate that mental aspect and physical aspect to ground yourself and level yourself out? Right? We talked about emotionally, right? How you leading yourself emotionally. A lot of us have a lot in our closet, right? Emotionally, it could be from childhood. It could be things that we went through in life. What are you doing to be able to start to clean out your closet, right? Are you going to therapy, right? Or do you have someone you can lean into that's a mentor, a big brother, maybe somebody at the church, right? What are you doing to Again, that don't mean you wear your heart on the sleeve, right? But if you know there are things that you're still working through that you need to get out your system, that way you can start to heal those wounds, then yeah, you need to find you an outlet for that. And lastly, what's your connection spiritually to God? Right? Everybody has different religions, but I would say this, and again, everybody comes from different walks of life. But from my experience, through different languages, through different cultures, it seemed like everybody's still looking up, right? Everybody still has a bigger power source or universal source that they're looking to. The text of the books that most of them read is just a way of living life. But above all of that, there's a spiritual being. There's some type of guide, some type of energy that they're looking for. What are you doing to connect to that source, right? And so you have to do those things to start to lead yourself, and then you'll start to see that your wife will start to follow. But if you're not doing those things, you can't expect her to follow your lead on where you're going if you're not doing those things to lead yourself. And so even on top of that, the glue that brings it all together, the glue, and I've been beating this dead horse, self-discipline, right? Accountability, responsibility. Those things are the glue, right? How are you when it comes to self-discipline? Are you on top of your daily activities as far as your checklist? Do you have a plan as far as financially that you're staying on top of when it comes to like budgeting, when it comes to your time throughout the day? When I wake up, I got it laid out, right? I got it listed out from when I wake up at 4 a.m., sometimes earlier, to the end of the night at 8 o'clock when my wife come home. Every hour on the hour, something's getting accomplished, and I'm keeping check of it, right? Because if I'm trying to think of the saying, they say, it's basically if things that I can't think of it right now, but the things that can't be measured if you can't track it, right? Something along the lines of that. But you have to be accountable, and then when you mess up, you're not only accountable to your household and your wife. You got to be accountable for yourself. Like, dang man, I didn't accomplish what I needed to accomplish. Be accountable to yourself to say, okay, let me go correct that. Let me go fix that. And be responsible. Are you taking care of the things that need to be taken care of to make sure that your marriage and your relationship, not only with yourself, but your wife and your kids, are you taking care of business, right? Things around the house, right? Things outside the house. Are you showing up for not only yourself, but for your household, your family, right? Your consistency is gonna be what makes your wife trust your leadership, right? These things aren't hard. They're just new for a lot of you guys. They was new for me. Once I really understood the language of being successful, I told you, self-discipline, accountability, responsibility. We hear it, but what does it really mean? Do we really understand the definition? Have we really dove into it to really see what those things mean when it comes to leading, right? So that's really what it is. I'm gonna say this last little bit, right? Emotion without direction is damn near a recipe for frustration, right? Think of a passionate man. He's very passionate, he's fired up, but he has no plan. So you're gonna lead with erratic behavior. And I'm gonna say this about my uncle, man. This is one thing I think, and again, I don't want to feel like I'm talking down, but this is one thing I grew up very passionate guy, very outspoken, very loud, right? But it was no plan, and so a lot of his behavior was erratic. And so it's like everybody's riled up emotion, but you can't lead like that. You can be charismatic, right? You can be very outspoken, but you can be very passionate, but you got to have a plan. The same thing that happened in marriage. You can love a lot. You can give a woman a lot of love, but if there's no structure, you're going to burn out, she's going to burn out. And so leadership is going to channel love into legacy, in my opinion, right? And again, I've said this before when it comes to leadership. I know that a lot of the talking points out there now is that, leading is controlling, right? It's almost like an attack on masculinity, right? No, absolutely leading isn't controlling, but leadership is guiding with a purpose, right? Leadership, again, doesn't mean dictatorship, but it's about being decisive while listening, planning, while protecting and guiding with love. All right. So, listen, man. Yes, having that love in marriage is damn near the heartbeat of the marriage. But leadership is the brain of the marriage, right? And your body can't survive without both. You need the heartbeat, you need the brain, right? So, ask yourself this morning, are you just feeling your way through your relationship, or are you leading with a vision, right? So, anyway, what y'all think about that? Drop a comment below. Subscribe to the Husband Code if it's your first time, or if you've been watching for a while, subscribe. Also, if you got any value from this video, hit that like button, and also hit the subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any more videos like this. Until next time, I appreciate y'all. Much love. Peace.